In this video, we're going to talk about IRR, which stands for Internal Rate of Return. And so what IRR is the actual rate of return if cash flows were discounted that a company is going to earn on a project. And so by now you should already know about net present value and the process to do that. Net present value looks at all of the cash flows from a project and brings all of those sums back to present value. And then it compares the inflows and the outflows to determine what the net present value of the project is. And if the present value is 0 or above, you will accept the project. Well, a company does that using their own discount rate, their required rate of return. But what IRR is it's the net present value process, but flipped backward. And so you know your cash flows, but you don't know your discount rate. And so IRR tells you what discount rate you would use to make this series of cash flows equal 0 net present value at the end of the day. Now, there's a really complex formula that goes into it, and you could do it by hand, but if you're studying for the CPA exam, then you don't want to have to waste that kind of time. Fortunately, spreadsheets give you a very simple calculation, and the formula is IRR and then in parentheses the numbers that you're going to be using. And you'll list your stream of cash flows, and the software assumes that you are listing your stream of payments or net cash inflows in chronological order, right? And that these are all successive periods. And so to figure out the IRR of this stream of payments that I have here, I'm just going to hit equals IRR, open parentheses, going to capture those in the brackets, close my brackets, and hit enter. Now, you can use the formula bar to do IRR, and it would look like this if you did it. You go into formulas, and choose financial, choose IRR, and for the values, you're just going to select the same values we did a minute ago. So we don't have to close our parentheses there. Hit OK, and it returns the same number. However, it actually takes longer to use the formula bar in this case, so if you can just memorize that formula, you're going to be in much better shape. Also, IRR is not normally shown as a percentage. When you're asked for the IRR, especially on the CPA exam, you will usually be asked to give it in hundredths, and so 0.07. And then to demonstrate the fact that this is the rate that you would use to set net present value to 0, I'm going to flip over to another tab, and I'm going to show you this stream of payments. So these are your cash payments here, and this is present value of 1. So for those of you who are used to looking up the factor on a chart and multiplying it by your number, these are the factors. You usually don't take them out quite this far, but I did just because I could. And then we're going to multiply your amount times the present value for the period. And then we're going to sum that stream of payments. And so it makes the net present value come out to roughly 12. Due to some rounding in here, the IRR is actually a little bit lower than 7, but if we wanted to use the number, we could actually adjust this number and make our present value come out at exactly 0. So if this number was 294, 217, that actually changes our present value a little bit, and it gets you to exactly 0 present value. But that $12, like I said, is due to just a little bit of rounding in the numbers. Let's flip over to a problem that we did in class where we were calculating the net present value of different options. I'm going to use the internal rate of return formula here to find out what the IRR is for each of these investments. So equals IRR, and then the stream of payments, capture these. This one has an internal rate of return of 15%. When we did this problem, we brought everything back to present value at 10%. But the internal rate of return of the spruce investment is actually 0.15 or 15%. I'm going to do the same for each of these other investments and see what the IRR is for those. So we just capture the stream of payments here, and it looks like there's a 16% rate of return, or 0.16 IRR, for the chestnut investment, and a 20%, seems to automatically convert there, 20% IRR. And then of course if you needed to see it out further than the 100th, you could, and you could see a more exact IRR for each of those. So hopefully you've learned a little bit about IRR, and this should be helpful in any cost accounting class you have or on the CPA exam.